Hello, welcome to Rebecca's Spanish Tutorials. I am Rebecca and it's lovely to meet you. And whether it's for the first time or you're coming back again, welcome. Okay. Now this video is video 2 in our Principles of Costing series, and today we're properly getting into content. So if you haven't watched video 1 yet, that's just a quick overview of the whole unit. So go back and watch that first. But let's just crack straight on with the teaching now, because we've got a lot to get through. Okay, so let's start with cost clarification, because everything else in this unit sort of builds on it. So costs are either direct or indirect. Now a direct cost is one that you can trace straight to a specific product or service. So like the wood that's used to make a table, or the hours a consultant spends on a particular client, an indirect cost, which we also call an overhead, is something that supports the production or the general business, but can't be traced to one single item. So that could be anything like rent at the factory or salary for the finance team. Then businesses then use cost codes to organise all of this in a system. So every cost gets assigned a code that tells you what type of cost it is and where it sits. So direct materials might sit in one range of codes, direct labour in another, and overheads in another again. So this might feel like a small administrative detail, but it's exactly how a real accounting system knows how to view and report on costs correctly. Now, let's talk about cost behaviour, because this is where things, I think, get more interesting. So a fixed cost stays the same in total, regardless of how much you produce. So that again could be your monthly rent. It doesn't matter if you make 10 units or 10,000, the rent is still the same. Now, a variable cost changes in direct proportion to output. So like raw materials, more units means more material costs in a straight line. And then we've got semi-variable costs, and they've got both a fixed element and a variable element. So that could be, for instance, a phone bill with a standing charge plus a cost per call, or maybe a machine that has a fixed rental cost plus a cost per hour for use. So in your assessment, you'll often be asked to split a semi-variable cost into fixed and variable parts using something called the high-low method. And here's how it works. So you essentially just take the highest level of activity and its costs, and the lowest level of activity and its total costs. You find the difference in the cost and divide it by the difference in activity. And that just gives you the variable cost per unit. Really, really simple. Then you take either the high or the low point, subtract the variable cost for that activity level, and whatever's left over is your fixed cost. So it sounds really fiddly the first time, but once you've done it 2 or 3 times, it becomes second nature, I promise you. Now, inventory valuation, and this is probably the area that catches out the most students, so make sure you listen to this bit carefully. So when a business buys the same material at different prices over time, we need a method to value what's left in inventory and what's being used up in production. So the 3 methods that you need to know are FIFO, LIFO, and average cost. So FIFO just means first in, first out. So we assume the oldest inventory is used first, and whatever's left in inventory is valued at the most recent prices. So let's imagine a bakery is going to use the oldest flour first before the newest, because their stock expires. Now, LIFO means last in, first out. So the newest inventory is used first, and what's left is valued using the oldest, earliest prices. Now, average cost recalculates a weighted average price every single time new inventory comes in. And that average is then used for every issue until the next purchase changes it again. So my tip here would be always set out a running inventory record with columns for receipts, issues, and balance, and just work for it line by line in date order. Never ever try to do this in your head, it's simply too easy just to lose track. Now, a quick mention before we carry on. My community is completely free to join, and the link is in the description below this video, and it's where you can ask questions, you can ask me directly and grab the free resources that I've built in for this exact unit. So we're actually past 400 members now, so come and join us. It's completely free, as I said, and it's exactly where I answer the kind of questions that we'll cover properly in video labour costs. Employees can be paid in different ways. So time-based means that an employee gets paid hourly. So total pay is hours worked multiplied by the rate. Output-based pay, which we call piecework, means a rate per unit produced. So total pay depends entirely on how much someone makes, regardless of how long it takes them. Now, on top of this, you need to understand overtime, which is often paid at a premium rate above the normal hourly rate, and shift allowances, which are additional payments for working unsociable hours. So you also need to understand the difference between direct labour, so that's the people that are physically making the product, and indirect labour, so like supervisors, quality inspectors, or maintenance staff who support production but don't touch the product directly. Direct labour is a direct cost. Indirect labour is treated as an overhead. Now, finally, because indirect costs can't be traced directly to a single product, we need to share them out. And we need to do that fairly using an overhead absorption rate. So this means picking a sensible basis, commonly machine hours or labour hours, and dividing the total overhead cost by the total amount of that basis across the business, and then applying that rate to each product based on how much of that basis it actually uses. So if total overheads are £60,000 and total machine hours are £20,000, your absorption rate is £3 per machine hour. And a product using 4 hours of machine time would absorb £12 of overhead. So all that's doing is giving you every unit a fair share of the business's overhead costs. So the final cost per unit reflects both the direct costs, which we can measure very easily, and its share of the overhead. So that brings us to budgeting and variances, which is where all of this costing knowledge gets put to use. So a budget is simply a financial plan for a future period, and it shows expected costs and income. So once the period is over, we compare the actual results, so what actually happened, back to the budget. And any difference is called a variance. So if actual costs are higher than budgeted, or actual income is lower than budgeted, that's an adverse variance because it's worse for the business. Now, if actual costs are lower than budgeted, or actual income is higher than budgeted, that's a favourable variance. And it's so easy to get these the wrong way around, definitely under exam pressure. So always just pause and ask yourself, is this good news or bad news for that business? And let that guide whether it's favourable or adverse. Now, you'll also come across fixed budgets where the original budget is adjusted to reflect the actual level of activity, which gives a much fairer comparison than comparing actual results to a budget that was set for a completely different level of output. Now, that's the full core of principles of costing. So cost clarification and behaviour, inventory valuation, labour costs, overheads, and budgeting with variances. So in video 3, I'm answering your questions from the community on this exact content. So if there's something here that didn't quite click the first time, stick with the series because we're about to come at it from a completely different angle. So as always, thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next one.